Hi everybody. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a little bit more complex editing instead of the simple editing that we've been doing right on the timeline. So for this project, I'm going to go ahead and hit New Project, and I'm going to give it a new name. So I'm going to call it my last name, and then a dot, and then the name of this project is Basic Editing. I'm going to call it Principles. I need something a little more different. Make sure I know where I'm saving it. There's the location. And yeah, that's exactly where I want to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then wait for my new project to come up. And then I'm going to upload all of the files that you downloaded in the Canvas assignment. So I've got my 4 monitors here because I'm in the editing workspace. These are my workspaces up here. This is my source monitor, my program monitor, my timeline panel, and my project panel or project monitor. I like to double click in the project monitor in the bottom left, and I am going to find, excuse me, everything that I downloaded. Should be in a folder called Video Editing 101. There it is. And I can see I've got a lot of stuff in here, but I know I want this. You're going to do everything. I've actually added some extra items. And if I look at that, and that, and that. Actually, I think I do want everything except for the file that I made. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click. Oh, actually, I need that. That's an MP3. There we go. All right, everything should show up in here as in list view. So I know I'm in the project panel because it's got this light blue outline. And as I hover over the light blue outline, I can click and drag it out to make it a little bit larger, because I don't like to have these in list view. I like to have them in a view where I can see what they are. So in the bottom of the panel, we've got all these little options down here, which is typical of Adobe. And this one says switch to icon view, and it makes everything a little bit larger. So I can say, oh yeah, I remember what this clip is. And oh yeah, I remember what this clip is. So I definitely like to do that. In the past project, you guys were just taking a clip and dragging it over to the timeline. And that's not what I want you to do here. What I want you to do instead of this, all right, see, we used to do that, and here's our audio on this track, and here's our video on this track. And if I zoom in, come on, let me zoom in. There we go. If I zoom in on my audio track, let me zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Let's see, let's bring that up a little bit. What you guys have done in the past is you did the razor tool, which is it's a tool that's in the timeline. I don't want you to do that. You know, you can also hover over a clip and you get this little red bracket. And if we take the red bracket and we shorten it, you're actually shortening the clip, or you're pulling the clip out. And we're not going to do that in this assignment. So let's kind of consider that a bad habit at this point. So I'm going to Control Z, and get us back to where we have nothing in the timeline. What I want you to do is I want you to move your clip up into the source panel. And we would do that by taking our clip, and you can either double click on it or just drag it up to the source panel, and there it shows up. So let's make the source panel a little bit bigger, since I'm going to show you some things in there. Make everything smaller. Okay, so think of the source panel as it's sort of like a preview of what you're going to do before it gets to the timeline. And you're going to have a lot more capability of editing in here. So in the source panel, we've got these buttons at the bottom here. So you'll have to let me know if you don't see those buttons. I can help you with that. So of course, if you hover over them, it'll tell you what they are. So the first one that looks like a left bracket is actually called Mark In. The next one is a right bracket, and it's actually called Mark Out. And the next one is Go to In, or where you marked the in. And then you've got go back one frame, play, go forward one frame, and then you've got literally go to mark out. Sorry, my big giant cursor is hiding the words, but I thought you guys could follow me better with the big giant cursor. Okay, this is probably one of the most important things that we have in here are these little icons. So here we can drag just the audio only with, it looks like a little film strip with a negative in the middle. Excuse me, drag the video only. And the other one literally looks like a little decibel measurement. And that's how you would drag the audio only to the timeline. But obviously this clip only has video. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and there's the video. So we got the clouds coming, dust clouds come in, and there goes the rocket. But let's say that I don't want all of that. I don't have time for all that. Let's say I want when the rocket takes off and we start to see the afterburner or whatever you call it. So I'm going to take my little scrubber here, and I'm actually going to go back, and I can see, I can measure. There we go. We start to see it like right there. So if that's where I want the clip to start, instead of dragging that whole clip over and using the razor tool, I'm going to use Mark In. And when I do, it does just that. You can see this whole area turned gray. So that tells me I said, okay, that's where I want it to start. So I'm going to hit play. And there it goes. And I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to choose Mark Out. So that is the clip that I know that I need from the larger clip to drag to my timeline. So let's move this up a little bit. Hover over that blue, make it smaller. And I am going to drag my video down to V1 or track 1. And there it is. Oh, I always get this. So in here, so obviously the settings were different than what the frame rate or video was when I took it or where I downloaded it from. So I'm going to say keep existing settings because I know that how I set it was how I want it. And there it is. And let's click play and see if we were successful with our Mark In and Mark Out. I hit play. There it goes. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Cool. All right. So that is my first clip. All right. I zoomed in a little bit more by using the scroll at the bottom so I can show you additional things you can do once you get it in here. So in the timeline. So I've got my little red bracket with an arrow that shows up. I'm just hovering and I'm in the move tool. So you can see I'm in the move tool. That's how you make that happen. And I can shorten the clip even more by just dragging it. So yeah, that does shorten it. You can see it's shortening as I watch the numbers up here, watch the the frames per second move up in the program monitor. See, I'm making it shorter, shorter, shorter. So then when I hit play, super short, done. And if I want to extend it longer, I just drag it out. Okay. All right. So simple editing in the timeline, more complex editing that we did up in the source monitor. Also note that once you're in the timeline, just like we did in the previous assignment, you can use the razor tool to cut a certain area. So let's say I don't want to see the afterburner. I can cut right there, move my scrubber over, and cut again right here. And then I'm going to grab my move tool and I'm going to click on that selection and just hit delete on my keyboard. But I do end up with a gap here in the middle, and you can just click on that gap one time. It turns white, and then you can hit delete on your keyboard and everything will shift to your left. So you still can use those little editing techniques once you get into the timeline. But I want you to practice what we did earlier up here in the source monitor with the mark in and the mark out. So I'm going to hit Control Z a couple of times because I don't want to edit my rocket footage. Okay, so let's add another clip to our source monitor and edit it a little bit and add it to the timeline. So the next one I'm going to add is this animation of the spinning world down here. So I can either double click it or click and drag it up here into the source monitor. So think about it this way. The project monitor and the source monitor work together. One's on top of the other. And then the timeline and the program monitor work together because they're on top of each other. All right, so let's go back here and I'm going to go ahead and hit play. This spinning world, you can see here's the little frames per second measurement down here on the left. And I kind of like all of the length of that. I actually really like the length of that. But if I wanted to, I could choose my mark in and mark out, but I'm going to leave it just as it is, and I'm going to click it and drag it to the next clip that I want in my timeline. So we'll go from the rocket, and then we'll go straight to the animation of the world. And then in here, of course, you would put a nice transition right here in the middle. Actually, let me just go ahead and do that really quickly. Okay, here's my workspaces up here at the top. So I'm going to choose Effects and wait for it because it is a very slow, big program. And they should show up over here on the right. So here they are. Yep, video transitions. Click the rollout arrow. I'm just going to choose the classic cross dissolve, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it right there in the middle. So one thing, insufficient media, this transition will contain repeated frames. Let's see what happens. So one thing that I noticed when you guys did your first video is that your transitions were really short. So same thing with the red bracket. I can hover over the red bracket and I can click and drag and make my transition larger. See how it extended? It made it larger. So let's see what happens now. Let's click the play in the program monitor. And here comes a nice, slower transition. There it goes. Look at that fade in there. That's nice. All right, so I really want to see you guys extend your transitions out longer so they're not short and choppy in this assignment that you're getting ready to do. All right, so I like that. Now, obviously, you can see over here in our project panel, we've got some, whoops, I lost my view here. So this happens a lot. Just go down here and click on your list. I want media, not media browser favorites. I want the name of my project in here. So if you're in media browser and you don't see the icons of the project that you had, it's just because they've probably disappeared over there. So let's go to, we don't want favorites. They really did. Oh, I know what the problem is. So we've lost what these look like because we're still in the effects workspace up here. So I'm going to go back to the editing, click on the editing workspace up here, and then everything comes back to the way that it was. So this is kind of a new thing for you guys. You're going to be switching back and forth using these different workspaces up here. Okay, so here I am back with my panels, and you can see I do have some audio. So if I double click the audio, same thing, it's going to go up here. And obviously the peaks and the valleys that you see in here, these lines are where the music gets softer or louder. It's soft and it's getting ready to get really loud. As my blue scrubber, think of your blue scrubber as like an eyeball. It's like seeing up or seeing down exactly where you are in this clip. So this is a really long audio. I don't want this to go the whole length. Your job in this assignment is you're going to match up some audio with all of the clips that you fit in. Let's say, and you can see, here's the little drag, here's the little drag audio icon. So I'm going to mark in right here, and then I'm just going to use my scrubber, and I know that it gets kind of quiet there because the valleys go down or the lines get shorter. I know my audio is softer there. So I'm going to use that as a mark out point because that would be great with the transition. So I'm going to choose mark out. And this is all I want right here. I just want this little bit right here that I used with mark in, mark out. So I'm going to click it and drag it over, obviously, to an audio track. Oops, come on. Let me drag it with this little guy. Look at that. It's on an audio. A is for audio, V is for video. Video 1 track, audio 1 track. And I'm going to make it a little wider so you can see. So now when I bring my cursor or my scrubber from here back to the beginning, let's see what happens in the program panel. I'm having some glitches with my audio, and I'm hoping it's just my lame laptop. All right, so I did that. I dragged my audio down. You've got several images in here and several audio to use. So I definitely want you to use what comes with the folder. This one doesn't come with the folder. I just wanted to show you guys this one, this small moon, so you can see how to adjust an image that you download from the internet. So I double clicked him, I added him up here. I'm going to bring him to the timeline over here, just the whole guy. And there he is. So what happens here when I bring my scrubber over, look how tiny that moon is. Obviously, it's too small. So let me make this a little smaller. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, so here's my moon. He's just too small. So if I right-click on the clip in the timeline, I can tell that clip scale to frame size, and he gets bigger. Sometimes if your image is too small, it might get pixelated, but in this case, it worked just fine. Okay, hopefully this tutorial wasn't too choppy for you. It's just some additional items that will make your editing much more simple and easier to maneuver. Look at the directions in Canvas. Make sure you download all of the images. You can add more images from the internet if you want. But happy editing. Enjoy.